Greetings, nerds, Trekkies, Blerds, and Trekkers. Welcome back to Cedar Nerd Presents Blerd Trek. I'm Will, and this is Last Week in Star Trek for the week ending May 30, 2026. We're now less than 2 months away from the return of Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 4, and the producers are out here saying the magic words that Trek fans love to hear. Classic storytelling, character focus, no big bad, and a return to what made this show work. But, and there's always a but, we also learned there's a version of Season 4, William Shatner's Captain Kirk almost came back. So today we're talking pure Trek storytelling, puppets, Kirk and Ortegas, and the Shatner story that didn't happen. Let's get into it. First things first, Star Trek Strange New Worlds will be returning on July 23rd, 2026 on Paramount Plus. That is the official return date, with 10 episodes rolling out weekly through September 24th, which is very cool because it also coincides with the 60th anniversary of the airing of the original series. So we are only about 50 plus days of getting Captain Pike and the crew to return to us. And honestly, the timing is interesting, not only because of the 60th anniversary, but in the weight that it has for that, but it also carries the weight of being the penultimate season of Strange New Worlds. Because if you haven't heard, or to remind you, Season 5 will be the final season of Strange New Worlds, and it's only going to be a 6-episode season when it airs. And we don't know when it's going to air, but I would assume it'll probably be some point in 2027. So Season 4 is not just another season. It is the penultimate chapter of where this show is heading, which is the end game, to that being the original series. And based on what producers are saying, Season 4 might be trying to do something very specific, and that is remind people why they fell in love with the show to begin with. The big headline that's driving this week is the creative team trying to return and promising to return to a more character-driven Star Trek storytelling. And that is very important. And this comes from Trek4 did a summary of an interview with showrunners with Polygon. And Season 4, of course, will still move around in tone and genre, which is very much the identity of Strange New Worlds if you've watched it. But this time we should not be having or expecting one season-long big bad like the Gorn or Vesta like we did last season, hanging over everything. And that's a big deal, because where Strange New Worlds is at its best, in my opinion, and when it feels like the best modern version of classic Star Trek as far as the original series or even the next generation, once where you'll get those episodic weeks of a moral dilemma. The next week you may have a courtroom drama, you may get a space horror, you may get a romance episode, and you may get something completely weird and unexpected and experimental. But that format is to show superpower, and I think that's the right move, because not every Star Trek series needs a big bad. Sometimes Star Trek is the strongest when the danger is the unknown, the ethical question, the alien civilization, and the personal challenge facing the crew. So when the producers talk about going back to pure storytelling, it sounds like Strange New Worlds Season 4 is trying to rebalance the show after some big, gigantic swings that it took last season. Speaking of big swings, the puppet episode is still happening. Yes, that's right. If you have seen some of the promotional materials for Season 4 or the trailers, you will see that there is a Muppet-style puppet episode coming in Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 4. That's due to some type of transport accident, if I recall. But Alex Kurtzman, the showrunner, did say that this is a big lift to do this Muppet show, and it is in the vein of the animated episode and musical that we saw in prior seasons. Now, I'm sure whenever you hear puppet episode, I'm sure many of you are like, what are we doing? But I'm going to say this. Star Trek has always been weird and have these weird episodes. And so it's right on brand. I mean, they've had body swaps. We've had evil twins. We've had baseball episodes, holodeck chaos, even singing Klingon. So you name it, we've had it. So Star Trek has always had some strange premises in the past. But the question is not, is the premise weird? The question is, does the weird premise tell us something about our characters? And that is where Season 4 definitely has to land it. It's not that, we can't have the puppet episode be puppets for gimmick's sake. It's got to be telling a story and using something about them to get turned into Muppets to, tell us something very real about Pike or in the crew, as far as any type of funny things or insightful things about the characters. And that is where the episode can go from being just a gimmick to one that is an instant classic. So that is very Star Trek when we do those things, when it uses the gimmick to tell us something about the character. Now, another key thing that we learned in these interviews this week is that season 4 is definitely going to be picking up on the relationship between Paul Wesley's James T. Kirk and Ethan Peck's Spock. Season 4 is definitely going to be, and the show itself has been walking a very delicate line, because we know where Kirk and Spock end up in the original series, but we don't know how this version of these characters end up in the version that we know. And that is the lane that season 4 of Strange New Worlds can really, really work in. Now, it's not one of those things, hey, look here, these cool characters and love, but how do these people that we see in season 4 and we've seen in the prior seasons of Strange New Worlds become the characters that we know and become those legends that we know? And that is more interesting than checking canon boxes. And I think this is where Paul Wesley has an opportunity to shine, because people are divided on his Kirk. I mean, I see the chatter on the interwebs, and folks are definitely divided about Paul Wesley's portrayal of Captain Kirk. And so if the show in season 4 can give us something with Kirk and Spock that grows naturally, awkwardly, unexpectedly, just like relationships in the real world do, then that can make the future friendship feel earned. And that is the very key word here. That's an earned friendship. So this just don't give us, it's very cool to have Kirk here on the bridge of the Enterprise, but give us the journey. And in doing so, make it feel earned. The other piece that caught my attention is the fact that they're going to be spending more time with characters like La'an and Ortegas. And that is definitely where the emotional stakes live, because obviously we know where Kirk and Spock and Scotty and Uhura end up, and they're with us in the original series, but clearly La'an and Ortegas are not. So what's going on there? And I have to say, I'm very happy to hear that, because Melissa Navia, as far as her portrayal of Ortegas, has been great. And she definitely just pops on the screen, but they haven't given her much meat and stories to work with over the course of the prior three seasons. They did a little bit last season with the Enemy of Mine kind of reference episode. But beyond that, we haven't had much more than I'm Erica Ortegas and I fly the ship. So I'm really looking forward to seeing something really cool with this character. Also, same with La'an. I mean, we of course know that she has the legacy and the weight of being Khan Noonien Singh's descendant, and she definitely shines. Christina Chong shines whenever she has to play that trauma or legacy or identity. But I'm really looking forward to seeing them stretch both these actors' legs this season with real meaty stories and maybe give us some glimpses as far as where they're going to end up at the end of season 5. And then finally, let's talk about the headline that definitely grabbed all the headlines this week, and that is that William Shatner almost came back. Now, I had a chance to see William Shatner live a few months ago, whenever it was here in North Carolina back in April. Check out my video for that. But the producers shared that they tried multiple ways to try to crack a story that would make sense for Captain Kirk to come back. And one of those was picking up the episode of back in the original series of The City on the Edge of Forever, where Kirk stays in 1930s with Edith Keeler. And so that is something that they tried to write multiple scripts, but this just never came together. And look, as a fan, would it be awesome to see William Shatner return to the franchise? Yes, totally. But I'd be lying if I said that I didn't want that. But at the same time, if the story just doesn't work, then I don't want Shatner to come back for a half-baked story that I'm going to feel let down by. And so I am glad that they recognized that and just didn't go for the shiny object. Hey, it's 60th anniversary. Let's just have a Shatner show up just for the sake of having him show up. But really trying to make it, if he was going to do it, make sure that it was a story that was earned. And so, yeah, because otherwise it just become member berries and nostalgia for nostalgia's sake, which, none of us will be happy about that. And so, and truthfully, Strange New Worlds has a lot on its plate these last 2 seasons. I mean, we definitely need to understand where our core characters in this story end up. So to add Shatner and Captain Kirk to it may have just tipped it too far over. Because, maybe it's just good for us to just have our headcanons and be like, what if? And I think that's totally fine. In closing, it seems that for me, Strange New Worlds Season 4 is definitely going to be a season where they're trying to thread the needle to not only continue the stories that they have built up with these characters, but also thread that needle to get us towards the end game of the original series. And to me, that has a lot of things for it to be right. And of course, in that, what becomes the legacy of Star Trek Strange New Worlds? Is it going to be the show that brought modern Trek back to episodic adventures? Is it going to be the show that gave us Pike his moment? Is it a bridge between modern streaming Trek and the original series? And we'll find out all of those things starting on July 23rd on Paramount Plus. Be sure to follow me here. I'll be doing recaps of those episodes and not just one by one peek outs, but what I really thought about those episodes. But I want to hear from you. Are you excited for Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 4? Drop your comments and thoughts below. Hit the like, subscribe to See the Nerd, and keep it locked right here for See the Nerd Presents Blerd Trek. Also, if you haven't checked out my video with Dr. Valerie Weiss, she was the director of the Spara and also Let the Set Let the Atis Tell. Go check out that video right now. But until next time, be sure to like, subscribe, do all the things. Thank you. Be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow us on our social media pages. You get all our content for the channel and for the podcast at www.cinenerdpodcast.com. Live long and prosper.